I don't know who the hell's going to want to watch us.
All right, we've already got some people coming on. Thanks, everyone. Just sharing it.
Who are these 10 freaks that are joining after this?
All right, all right. I think this comment that came in right away is the best place to start. I don't know where to begin. Russ, where do we begin tonight? Because this has to be probably the worst loss of the season so far for this team.
Yeah, well, this is where we're going to begin here. Yeah, it was rough. I mean, this is... Yeah, I said this before we started. It's getting a little predictable how these games without Book Night are going to go. And this one is just kind of another version of what we saw for stretches against Seton Hall, for stretches against St. John's, where for periods of maybe about 10 minutes, they get beaten to every loose ball.
Yep.
They give up easy rebounds. They take bad shots. They don't get into their offense until there's 6-7 seconds left. And this is what happens. I mean, one thing that I think we all loved about Dan Hurley when he was hired, and you saw his enthusiasm, and you saw his passion, and you saw how his teams played at Rhode Island, is you thought, well, even if they're not the best, they're not going to get outplayed.
Right.
Well, this team does.
Yeah.
At least for stretches. And it's not good. And without someone like Book Night who could kind of mask that, the team's just not very good. That's just how it is.
Yeah. And the one thing that it seems to really bother me about these teams, and I know we talked about it, in the last couple of minutes of the Seton Hall game, there's just no urgency to anything. It seems like everything out there is just being run, like going through the motions. It's been painful to watch, and I know we keep harping on the fact of how they want to play slower. That's the formula that they think is going to win, but I've disagreed with that for a lot of this season. But I think today in that one stretch where they did make a bit of a run to get back in it a bit, they sped things up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said this after the last one. You can play slow, but you have to play with purpose. And a lot of the time, it didn't look like they were in the half court. And the product of them speeding things up a little bit when they made that comeback, I mean, that was a result of a couple of really good defensive plays, resulting in steals and layups. I've yet to see what they can do really offensively, not in transition.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. And in the one thing, and I think we were talking about this with Rod Sellers after the last game, way too many shots coming down with 1-2 seconds left on the shot clock. And they're not good shots at all.
No, and they're very rarely going to be when there's only a couple seconds left and you have to shoot. Sunogo got 1 or 2 to go, which, good for him. He had a fantastic game. So you want a bright spot. I think he's definitely worth discussing. But you're right. And to Providence's credit, their pressure was really effective in slowing UConn down. I mean, it took 7-8 seconds to get the ball up the court, so that had an impact. But also, the guards weren't really sure what to do. You had those possessions. Yeah. I know I saw people commenting on it on Twitter where like Sunogo's setting like 5 or 6 high ball screens and nothing comes out of it at all. I mean, and of course, I mean, I know I'm rambling here, but then, Tyler Polley completely lost on offense. Yep. Whaley played well in the last couple minutes of this game, but was a non-factor again for most of it.
Yeah.
There's just a whole lot of nothing. And, Cole and Martin can score sometimes when needed, which is great, but they're not good enough to carry a team like this.
No, I think that's spot on. And, it was nice to see last game. You saw a bit of a more aggressive, assertive Jalen Gaffney out there, obviously taken out of the game early with the foul trouble. And he just seems like he never really got into the flow of the game. But I think today, in that one stretch where they did make a bit of a run to get back in it a bit, they sped things up a little bit. And, you But especially out of the guards, it just seems like everything is being led with indecisiveness. It's nothing. Again, like you said, and I do like what you say about how you can win playing slow, but you've got to play with purpose. And it just doesn't seem like no one really knows what the purpose is and what they should be doing.
Yeah, that's the thing, and we've said this every time we've done one of these, and I think it's been said in every game since Book Knight went down that without him, there's no alpha on this team.
Yeah.
But not just that, it's that there's no secondary scorer. There's no third or fourth option who you would all think would slide up a spot with Book down.
Yeah.
Sometimes a guy gets a good look and he scores. Sometimes a guy has a good game and good for him. But I mean, I can't tell you who they should look for on Saturday if Book Knight isn't there. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think it all started at the Creighton game when Book Knight puts up 40 and they still lose, and you start thinking who's going to be the guy who can step up and be that secondary scorer, and there was no one there. And you said, hey, it's early in the season. They've had some of these COVID pauses. Someone will figure it out. Book Knight goes down, and you just can't rely on anyone really to step up and lead the way.
Yeah, and look at how stupid I sound after this. After the Book Knight 40-point game, when everyone was saying that, my thought was, well, you know what? Whaley's had some great games. Polly's had some great games. Maybe they don't need to assign a name to that number 2 guy because you can count on somebody really stepping up each night. I was very clearly wrong.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna try this out. I haven't really taken calls on this before, but let's give it a try. Looks like we've got Tom here. Tom, if you can hear us, you're live.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can. Yes.
All right, so I guess I'll just put the camera on too for a quick second. My question is basically, I really think the challenge for UConn is they can't break 70, and their style of play is similar to Butler, where they go out and they can grind it out. They do have a lot of talent. They do win on the rebounding side, but they can't break 70. And while doing that, that's going to hurt people, or that will hurt UConn because it's going to keep other teams around like it did with Providence. So, I mean, what do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I said this last time. I'm not a huge fan of assigning like an arbitrary number to break, but I understand what the frustration is. And even though UConn plays slow, especially without Book Knight, and that means they're going to play lower scoring games, they're not a team that can outscore a very good offensive team. And Providence isn't one, but at times they were tonight. I thought when Duke got going, when Watson got going, Horkler was a pain in my ass in this game. UConn doesn't have the firepower, and they don't have a guy who can answer. And especially now that they were just terrible from 3 in this game, you're right. Not being able to break 70 is an issue.
Yeah, I mean, breaking 60 is a challenge for this team sometimes.
Yeah, maybe they start there.
But I mean, one thing that led me into this game with some cautious optimism, even on the road, thought maybe if you're still down Book Night, is when I was talking with the writer from the Providence Journal yesterday, was kind of echoing some of the concerns we're talking about today when it was in reference to Providence. And, outside of David Duke and Watson, they don't really have anyone else that can do much of anything. So I thought that was going to give UConn an opportunity. Hey, if you could try to stop those guys, maybe force someone else to beat you. But if UConn's not going to be able to score, it's not going to make a difference.
Yeah, and the problem is UConn wasn't able to get stops when they needed to, and they haven't been able to do that the last few games. And I know that it's not something that we like to bring up because you never want to blame officiating. You just sound like it's sour grapes. But UConn has had a lot of fouls called against them over the last few games. And I'm not saying it hasn't been fair. I'm not saying, UConn hasn't drawn fouls, but it has made it very difficult for UConn to play defense. And I think that has been something that's probably surprised a lot of UConn fans in this return to the Big East, is how different these games are called compared to where they were 8 years ago. And that has definitely hampered their defensive effort. And I think it did here tonight as well.
Agreed. Let's go. Looks like we've got Kevin. Kevin, can you hear us? Kevin going once. All right.
Next caller.
It doesn't look like we've got Kevin's. So you're stuck with Russ and I as we continue to lead our group therapy session here after tonight's loss to Providence. And again, this has been a stretch now. UConn's lost 4 out of 5 with that one win coming against Butler. So it's been a very tough stretch for them in the season. As of now, it seems like they're scheduled to play Xavier on Saturday, which should be interesting. Xavier again coming off a pause. Maybe that's what UConn needs to get him coming off a bit of a break. But in terms of going forward, it seems like no one knows what the status is of James Bouknight. No one. It seems like we get a different answer every game. Last game, it seemed like he was chomping at the bit to get in the game, trying to pressure the team in. Then today he's out. For a game time decision, I think the Rothstein tweet came like an hour and a half before the game, so it didn't seem too game time in my book. So, what are your thoughts just on the whole situation here? I know it's a student athlete. You're not going to be as explicit as you would in, say, a professional league, but thoughts on the whole way this thing has been handled.
I'm going to be careful here because I don't want to get in trouble. A couple of things. I don't know how well fans know this. Media members are not allowed to ask players about their injuries. They have to ask the coach. So you're not going to get straight answers from the players. You have to go to the coach. And in this situation with this UConn program, everything runs through Dan Hurley. And normally you would have a sports information director who would be able to help you come up with some sort of coherent message of, even if it's just James Bouknight is day to day, even if it is the doctors are waiting for Bouknight to stop feeling X so that he could play. We're ramping him up, based on his return to practice on X date, whatever it is, even if you're not getting too specific. Usually that's the SID's job. Mm-hmm. When it is just Dan Hurley, he is going to do what he believes is in the best interest of his team, and that is to be as dodgy and as cloudy as possible.
Yeah.
And whether or not it really makes much of a difference, whether Providence knows the game plan for James Bouknight or not, it's a coach thing. Mm-hmm. And it's extremely frustrating for fans. This has been really frustrating because the extent of his injury has been a mystery for a long time. I mean, right. He had the surgery. People were wondering what the hell was going on.
Right. You didn't even say what the surgery was for right away.
Right. And the fact that it sounded like he could have played against Seton Hall, or at least that's what Hurley made it sound like, made people expect him to play today. So it was frustrating when he didn't. And there's been no clarity with that. There's been even less with the Cook,
right?
Who seems to just fallen off the face of the earth.
Yeah,
he came back, played a couple of games.
Said he had a shin injury or something, right?
Yeah, he didn't look all that good. But he had a couple moments where you're like, oh yeah, that's the guy I remember, and we've just never heard from him again. I mean, I don't know. There are no answers coming from the program about these injuries, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating for fans and media alike. I know that.
Yeah, definitely echo everything you say there, and just some sort of semblance. Even if you said if it is just a statement of he's day to day, it's at least a consistent message.
Oh, hold on. Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
And Neil Ostrup just tweeted. Someone asked Hurley how close Bouknight was to playing tonight, and Hurley said not close. So what happened?
Yeah.
Was there? I won't go off on the media now because I don't know. Was there a follow up to that? Did Hurley say anything else? We'll find out. But if he wasn't close, then I want to know what changed between the other
chomping at the bit to get it. Yeah, definitely. I know we've got Phil here who's got a question. Phil, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, loud and clear. I want to first thank you guys for letting us crazy fans on here. Also, Jared, I think we've met in real life at one point a long time ago, but that's a different conversation.
Oh. All right, we'll have to catch up on that after.
I don't want to sound like a doomer, but how crazy do I sound if I personally feel myself a little bit concerned about Hurley overall? And I'm not saying that is just a knee jerk. I have a little background to this. So when you're watching a UConn broadcast, all you hear about is what? hear about his dad. You hear about his really good high school career in New Jersey. You hear so much about New Jersey high school basketball, which as a CT high school basketball guy, don't really want to hear about. My point is this. All of the positives that you hear coming out of the program, besides some of the big wins we have, we beat Florida last year, we came out hot this year, we beat USC. I get that. That's great. But a lot of it is based upon all of these kind of like old school, practices are physical. The team's in such good shape. They're playing hard. And it starts to kind of remind me of your typical good, but high school coach that is, we're going to fight for every loose ball. We're going to dive for every, rebound. We're going to run back and slap the ground on defense. Obviously, you need to have those things, but sometimes when we have the same in this situation where our offense has been stagnant for 10 games, we really haven't adjusted, that thought starts to creep into my mind that, like, is this guy just the most overqualified, hustle, toughness, defense high school coach, or is he a guy that can actually get us to the next level, in a top flight Division I league?
It's an interesting question. I hate to say, like, let's wait and see what next year looks like when he brings in another top recruiting class, because it does seem like he's killed it on the recruiting trail. But at the end of the day, you ultimately need to see those guys play out and see them do well. I think you saw it with Bouknight. You're seeing it with Andre Jackson a bit. But I certainly get your point. I mean, I'm one who always loved watching Hurley go after the refs and that kind of shtick. But last game, when him and the bench got that technical,
that was bad.
Yeah, it was to the point where I'm like, usually I laugh at the technicals. I'm like, hey, he probably said something, probably deserved it there or what. But it was just like, what's going on here? It seems like it's just frustration boiling over. And I don't know. And Russ, I mentioned this at the start of last postgame when we went like 6.5 minutes and didn't take a timeout. It just seemed like I get the point again of letting them try to play through things, but at some point it seems like they could use a little bit more direction. And I think he doesn't want to necessarily impose that year 3 into the program when he talks about his plan for building them back up. But I do think, especially without James Bouknight, they might need a little bit more from him.
Yeah. We're in year 3. Hurley is certainly not immune from criticism at this point, right? In year 1, no matter who the coach is, you kind of got to give him a pass for playing with, someone else's players. Fine. UConn improved considerably year 1 to year 2. And as bad as this feels now, UConn has improved again year 2 to year 3. This is a better team than last year's. Good. I still think Dan Hurley is the guy. I think he was a great hire, and I think he will do very well at UConn. All of that said, we watch every single game. We see what can be criticized. And I think one thing that is clear is that Dan Hurley is not a great offensive coach. And he can look like a great one when you have great players, just like anyone can. But he can't he can't just magically produce something. Maybe he needs to bring in an assistant who can help him, who's a really smart X's and O's offensive guy. Now, all of that said, Hurley has dramatically raised the level of recruiting for this team, which you just mentioned, Jared. This team is a whole lot better defensively, and we've seen a lot more player development from these guys under Hurley than under Kevin Ollie. So for all of those reasons, I am still 100% sold on Hurley. If you're unsure at this point, I get it. I don't think it's reasonable to be anti-Hurley right now. Now,
with a great answer. The one last thing is I know we got a lot of folks in the chat. We've all played basketball growing up. We've all heard from low-level coaches, all right, 7 shots before we can make a pass. That's what our offense looks like the last couple of games. Passes for the sake of passes. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a good line.
I like that.
One other thing, too, if I could remember where I was going with this. Oh yeah, year 3 usually a coach has a team full of his guys or almost all of his guys. It is important to remember that you kind of still relying on Isaiah Whaley and Josh Carlton to do a lot on this team, and also the freshmen that he brought in year 2.
Yep.
And it's nothing against them. Like, I think Jalen Gaffney's really good, but I remember talking to Hurley at the Big East event in New York at that press conference, and he was talking about the incoming class. That would have been his first full class. And he said, who we have coming in here needs to be the floor for this program. Like, this needs to be the worst recruiting class I ever have. And it was still like borderline top 100. And he says, if that could be the floor and we could build from here, we're going to be in really good shape. So I think by next year is when you can fully judge this team as being 100% on Dan Hurley.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. And I know everyone's, especially given where the program's been the past few years, everyone gets sick of the, hey, like, we played close, like moral victory type things. And I could definitely see why some of that frustration is building up when the team ultimately falters like they did today. So let's go to another caller. One of our regulars here, Big Slick. How you doing? Can you hear us? All right, we'll go to someone else and we'll come back to you in a second. Looks like Kevin might be back. Kevin, can you hear us? Kevin Yan. All right. Well, it looks like we might have some difficulties with the callers. Let's try it.
Sorry, I have some more Hurley quotes about book night. If you're
okay.
Interested.
Yeah.
This is from Dave Borges, so shout out to him. Actually, where? Nope, never mind. I was looking at old quotes. Thank you very much to No Escalators for tweeting all of those and making me think they were current. Never mind.
It does look like we are getting a little more information. Again, Neil Ostrout here saying that Hurley said it was the surgeon who performed book night's procedure, not a UConn doctor who has the final call on his playing status. So not UConn's trainers or their medical folks.
Okay, so I'm seeing it here. Book night met with surgeon on Monday. He still had some discomfort in his elbow. So that's, I mean, that would be why. My guess is that book night still has a little bit of soreness, but feels like he could play through it. And the surgeon is saying that's not a good idea, and that's where the frustration is coming from.
Especially if the surgeon and him are having those conversations about what his future is going to hold. And, you know, when you're thinking about him being an NBA lottery pick, hey, maybe he can go back out there and play right now, but is it worth the risk for him? And that's something, you know, that, you know, we really haven't had to think about guys jump into the draft in lottery status, but I guess something that has to come into play here down the stretch. I know usually we have fun with the Wanky's Yankee hot pepper products player of the game here today.
I would like to give a shout out before we get to the player of the game.
Yeah.
The anti-player of the game. Brendan Adams posted a 12 trillion in this game. If you don't know what that is, does everyone know what a trillion is?
Oh, I love Mark Titus, famous for the
Mark Titus, right? So Mark Titus will walk on at Ohio State. He said he would get a trillion when he would play the game, which is 1 minute and then 0, 0, 0, everything else in the box score. So it reads like the number 1 trillion. Brendan Adams, 12 minutes, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 12 trillion. Good for him.
It's rare to do.
Shout out Brendan Adams. My Yankees player of the game. Good for you.
For me, I'm going to, I guess Sanogo's really your only choice today. RJ Cole had a few good minutes where he stepped up and did some stuff, but Sanogo, again, looking like a force, and a guy that you're really going to look forward to. The next thing I want to see out of him is being able to pass it out of the post a little bit. There are some times where I'd say most of the times he gets in there and he's not going to pass it out. He's going to go for that hook shot no matter what. But I think after all is said and done, he's my player of the game today.
Yeah, I think I've said it before. I am infinitely more okay with Adama Sanogo missing a shot than anyone else on the team.
Yeah.
Like I could chalk it up to him being a freshman if he takes like an ill-advised 10-footer. And like most of the crazy shit he does works out. So
yeah,
good for you.
So Big Slick here sending in the question via chat. I guess having some issues there, but your view on the overhelp D leading to so many open shots. And it's something we saw a lot of today.
Yeah, we did. I'm not too worried about that. I think if you're looking for something that UConn has done well in the last handful of games. Their rotations on defense have been solid, save for a few breakdowns, which are going to happen. Today, it kind of bit them a little bit with the overhelp, as mentioned. But overall, I think their defense has been solid. And Hurley's going to look at the tape. He's a good defensive coach. He's going to know how to adjust. He doesn't have players who are very quick is a problem. So the reaction time needs to be right on. And that comes with experience. That comes with playing together for a while. It's not a huge worry for me. It sucked to watch today.
Yeah. I don't think we touched on it earlier, but I guess we could hit it before we head out. And that was thoughts on the changes to the starting lineup. Because I know that stuff's so always fun to talk. But what were your thoughts on? I obviously think Gaffney deserved the start today. You know, well deserved. I guess trying to light a match under Poly a little bit and giving him the start and seeing if he could get going. But do you want to see that starting lineup again come Saturday at Xavier?
I want to see Gaffney start again. You know, it like we said, Gaffney picked up those 2 early fouls, never really got into it, but I think he's proven that he is deserving that starting spot. As for Poly, if he's not making threes, he shouldn't be on the court. Like, he is a net negative everywhere else. And the fact that he was so ice cold today, I mean,
what was it? 1 for 10, I think.
Yeah, 1 for 10, and he's shooting under 20%, like over his last 5 games from 3. So what's he doing out there? If you're in a situation where you're like, okay, we really need a 3, our offense is really struggling, we need somebody to light a fire, bring him off the bench, run a couple plays for him, see what happens. But starting the game relying on a lottery ticket that has not paid off lately doesn't seem to be the right move. So I'd like to see Gaffney, maybe not Poly, starting on Saturday.
Agreed there. And we'll see what they do there. Update from Dom Amore here saying that despite what seems like the setback with James Bouknight and the surgeon there, he still will be a game time decision, but he needs more time. That's the full quote. So I don't really think that's a game time decision.
No, I would not expect him to play on Saturday. And, you know, like you said, Xavier's coming back from a long pause. Looks like about 2 weeks since they had last played a game.
Yeah, January 30th.
Right. So, you know, maybe UConn could get away with one on the road there. Hopefully they can. Hopefully they have a sense of urgency, knowing that now they're most certainly on the wrong side of the bubble. If they can come up with a win there, maybe they could get him back for the Providence game on Tuesday. But I mean, I don't know. Like, all we can do right now is speculate, because it seems like
we don't know anything.
Story every game.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe he plays Saturday. I have no idea. Maybe he plays 30 minutes. That's for all we know.
Yeah. And you mentioned there, you know, falling on the wrong side of the bubble, which I definitely think they are now, because when we talked, when Bouknight first went out, they just had to win the games they were supposed to win. And today's a game that they probably should win, even though it's on the road. It's a Providence team that's really struggling. That was really struggling coming into today. But they had lost 4 out of 5 heading into today, and I know Cooley was pretty upset after the last one in their performance. But
yeah.
I guess hope for the best come Saturday. We'll see what happens, and go from there. I think that's all we can do at this point.
If you look at like the schedule from the time Bouknight went down, and you say, all right, here are the games ahead. Here's what we need to do to kind of keep pace. They probably would have needed to win one of the games either today or St. John's.
Yep.
And they lost to both. Maybe they could make up for that with a win on Saturday. I don't know. I'm not worried about being on the wrong side of the bubble right now, because here's what it comes down to. If Bouknight comes back, UConn's an NCAA tournament team. If Bouknight doesn't come back, they're not.
Yep.
It's that simple.
I think you're spot on there.
So talk about the resume right now all you want. It doesn't make one bit of a difference to me.
Right. I think we're in agreement on that one once again. Russ, thanks so much for coming on again for another post-game show. Appreciated everyone who called in. We'll keep that up. We'll keep that up. And Phil, we got to figure out how we've met before. But
Phil, look at me. What the hell? Why haven't you met me?
Well, again, everyone, walk off the ledge a little bit tonight.
Yeah, watch some women play. They're about to play Seton Hall. Watch Paige, a good palate cleanser.
There we go. Get everyone back on the right side there. So everyone, thanks again. We'll see you again on Saturday.